Doing conversions initially of games for like Adventure International, a few of the other game companies in the late 70s. And but so far nothing happened, so I put that aside. So after Lucas did Empire Strikes Back, and saw that they're spending a lot of time and energy building models and then blowing them up while filming them, they wanted to know if there was some other way to do it. What could we do with computers? So they asked this company, Information International, if they could try creating a computer model of the next film. And that's what it looked like. It looked really great, but it took hours and hours and hours, probably days of time to render it. And that wasn't going to work if they had to do a special effect. So thinking in 1980 was that computers and storage currently were too slow, too expensive, but they already saw the curve, and they're going to get faster, cheaper. So they could do it with computers eventually. Let's find the best computer graphics wizards and start a new division so we'll be ready. And so that's what they did, and they created the Lucas Film Computer Division. Long jacket, it still fits. 30 years later, 32 years later, still fits. Elsewhere in Marin, I was working on a book called Computer Animation Primer, which is online for free if you want to check it out at atariarchives.org/CAP. Part of the book was featuring current state-of-the-art animation and film. Part of it was a how-to for computer animation on your Atari 800. And part of during the research, I was able to talk to the people of the computer division. And the shot below is from Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. It's one of the initial parts of the Genesis effect. And so they gave me some plates, and I got to meet the guys. I got to hang out with them at SIGGRAPH in 1981, and got to know a few of them, especially this one guy named Warren Carpenter, which I'll come to in a minute. But I was so inspired by Star Wars. One of the examples I had was a color cycling effect of the trench, where since you couldn't redraw that fast on the Atari, I ended up doing alternate red and yellow stripes, and when you ran the animation, it felt like you were going down the trench. So I liked that feeling. I wanted that in a game. So, meanwhile, this company called Atari, and of course, we all know that this, I don't have to tell you about this. But around that time, George decided to form a group to do high-tech entertainment outside of films. And the new group would be part of the Lucasfilm Computer Division. And fortunately, he was able to talk with Atari. I'm not sure who approached who, but there was an agreement where Atari paid Lucasfilm $1 million to start a games group and to get the first right of refusal for any games that they produced. Of course, assuming they were for Atari computers or game systems. So that started the partnership, Atari Lucasfilm, and everyone was really happy. In the meantime, I heard about this and ended up hearing that a group was about to start. This is early summer of 1982, exactly 30 years ago, and found out they had hired one person already, Peter Langston, to be the head of the group. I got one of the first interviews. He liked my enthusiasm. He liked that I already wrote a book on Atari, and that I already knew the guys. Since I knew the guys, I was able to get interviews. So it's almost like I had planned that book ahead of time where to jump in there if they were a games group. I had no idea they were going to do that. So I became the second outside employee to be hired for the games group. And some of the people in the group, this is about a year in. We have Charlie Kellner, upper left. Charlie was, I think, employee number 7 at Apple. Dave Levine was a pretty fresh guy out of college in Chicago who had done some Play-Doh simulations, nothing professional in terms of games. I mentioned Peter Langston, who was known for his PSL tapes, Unix tapes, and doing kind of multiplayer games on Unix systems, text-oriented CRTs. There's me in the middle. Lauren Carpenter in the back. Lauren was a wizard who figured out how to do fractal landscapes of mountains in low tide, and that was also used for the Genesis effect. And Gary Winnick, who came from Atari.
Is that the jacket?
That is the jacket. That's the very same jacket. So our plan, no pressure, was to build 2 throwaway games. It was go in there, be in research mode. How can we do games in a way which maybe haven't been done before? In fact, that was one of the reasons that those of us who were hired really didn't have extensive resumes as game designers. None of us had really done much in the way of original content, at least nothing that was published. And we kind of wanted to reinvent things, so we had some great ideas like, maybe we could create this Unix, we'll do all the games on the Unix system, we'll push a button that says Atari and it gets compiled down to Atari. Okay, here's another button that says Apple II, push that button and it gets compiled to Apple II. Well, we were pretty naive, obviously at that time we had to hand tune every single line of code and everything to make it work really well, so that didn't work, but the concept was complex. Sorry, this is slow. One of the 2 games was Ball Baser. Liz, were you there?
Yeah.
Why don't you push forward? Right arrow. Okay. This is actually, okay, listen to the music. Actually, you probably can't hear it on this part, but the music was kind of an experiment that we wanted to try. That worked. Peter Langston, who's a musician, still is, and happened to know a bunch of friends, and they agreed to add little clips of sections of music in the theme, as long as they weren't mentioned at the time, because they didn't want anyone in trouble. But these are some musicians who contributed to the Bulldozer theme song. Song on the grid. That's, I guess, an Easter egg. So my game was, going back to Ball Baser, one of the things that Dave did was spend a lot of time tuning it so you can get 60 frames per second on the Atari, mostly by doing things with displays interrupts and fine scrolling and all that. And when we started doing presentations to the press, there was one guy who came in and started looking under the table for the video disc player. And he didn't believe that it could be done on an 8-bit computer at that frame rate. Even when we said, this is really all use 800, this is it. So my game was going to be kind of a Star Wars, Star Raiders on a planet, Star Wars-like, but not Star Wars. I love Star Raiders. I love playing that on a big screen with the sound tuned up. And that's kind of what I was going for. And when I first got to Lucasfilm, they put me with Lauren Carpenter as office mates for the first 3 months, since we didn't have our space ready yet. And I asked Lauren, hey, so what about doing fractals on an 8-bit computer? And he says, can't be done. And next morning he says, I think there might be a way to do it. And so he loaned him an Atari 800, came back in 2 days, and taught himself 6502, read the manuals on the Atari, and had a demo of a fractal landscape that we could fly around it. So the game was on. Of course, the resolution wasn't like this. We had to kind of pull back quite a bit, but there was a way to do it. So my next task was, I really wanted to feel just like you were flying an X-Wing. And of course, one of the things besides the window was you had to have a really realistic looking control panel. So I had all these art resources available to me. So I went to the archive of all the images from Star Wars movies that we had. I found some heads-down displays from the X-Wing's instruments. I actually got to find a real X-wing cockpit that they still have. Took lots of photos, got really close, all the different shots and all the little things that they had stuck on there. It looks better in the film actually than in real life. And came back and faithfully adapted it for the Atari 5200. And there we have it. And this is how it actually looked. Notice that it's pretty jagged. The computer division was really upset with how jagged our lines were. We've been doing anti-aliasing. We didn't have enough colors to do that. That's actually where the names of the jaggies came from. This is the disc version that had to be released. So basically, you're flying around these landscapes, shooting stuff, and you're supposed to land looking for pilots to rescue. And here's a ship. I landed, turned off my shields, pilots ran towards me, but there's something weird, he had a green head. Oh no! And that piece there of the alien was something which no one had experienced before. We made sure that in the press materials, you can have that second. So I had it myself. So when I was first designing the game, I didn't want there to be any shooting. I thought, okay, I want to pass this. Let's see, can we do this where maybe you just have the enemies follow you and kind of force them into the landscape to make them crash. And I thought that was a really good idea. And then we ended up having George come by. I think we were in beta, and he ended up picking up the game, and after the first couple of seconds, he said, "Where's the fire button?" And I said, "Well, George, there is no fire button." Told him why I didn't have one, and he said, "Well, did I do that because it served the gameplay or because it served my personal values?" And I said, "Oh, okay." So I added a fire button. And in retrospect, it was really good. But we just said they're aliens and they're shooting gun emplacements, so we're not killing people. I felt partly okay about that. He also had the brilliant idea of adding tension to the game. And he said, well, what if when these pilots start running towards you, every once in a while it's an alien? And that way you'll have some the tension that was missing in games at the time. And I said, oh, okay, so we went back and that's where the alien came from. And because we didn't trigger that until about level 8, people were basically kind of getting complacent, pushing, open the airlock door to let the pilot in, close the airlock door, fire it, all that stuff. All of a sudden, this thing pops up. We've been playing it for at least several hours, maybe several days, and people were freaked. I've gotten emails, I still get emails from people describing what their experience was the first time they saw Jaggy pop up. One mother complained to me that her 5-year-old came running out of the house, "Mommy, there's an alien in my computer." And I'm trying to find this here, sorry. People still seem to, when I ask people about this, everyone seems to have a story of the first time that they did this. Here's one. I first played Rescue on Fractalus when I was in college. One night when I was alone in a darkened room, a dorm room, I was playing it for the first time. It was around midnight, and my hand stuck in almost 2 days. And the Jaggy jumped up on the windshield. If you don't turn on the shields, he breaks through the glass and the poisons the atmosphere, rushes in and kills you, so you're dead. I let out a scream that woke up my neighbors on the other side of me, and I fell out of my chair. My neighbors came knocking on my door, wondering what the hell happened. That's a gaming memory I'll always cherish. So, as I mentioned, it didn't show up in the press releases. Atari was really good with that. I was surprised they would manage to keep it secret. We did have something in the background manual, which was kind of a first-person story from a pilot that was on the planet surface telling us, oh, something's happening, and it just comes, and that's it. So that was that was probably the thing people most remember, besides the fractal landscapes. Industrial Light and Magic was asked to create the images for the manual and for the box. By 1983, they already won about 5 Academy Awards for visual effects. And so we had the models built. They built the models, photo sheets were set up. This is the model they built just for the cover of the game. They actually set it on fire. I got to be inside of it. That's me on the inside when they shot it. And guys with fire extinguishers standing by just in case the flames got out of hand. They built a model of the Valkyrie fighter. It's about this big. This is probably I think the budget for this was like $25,000 just for the manuals and boxes for both games. Here's the rotofoil model, one of the rotofoil models, and the saucer. The saucer is kind of an interesting story. The guy who built this, Wesley Seeds, was model builder at Star Wars. At Lucasfilm, and he had been, just come off of Empire Strikes Back. He's probably still working on Return of the Jedi, and he was so thrilled to get something shaped other than a TIE Fighter or X-Wing that he said, I really have to get into this. And he spent, probably weeks refining the shape. He added, I don't know if you can see the treads on the bottom from a tank kit. There's all sorts of little paraphernalia stuff around all over the place. And here's how it looks on the manual, on the box cover. Can you find it? We did manage to reuse it in the manual, but that's as big as you ever see it, in the bottom left corner. So we had some Easter eggs. We had this strange tension. Lucasfilm, being a film company, had no problem giving credits to game designers. But because Atari was going to be publishing it, Atari, as I heard yesterday, and the Atari talk had very strict guidelines about getting credits. And they didn't mind if there was an Easter egg, but you couldn't put it in the game, obviously, and you couldn't put it on the box. Well, I guess we compromised. We ended up with our credits in the manual, but not on the box or obviously in the game, although there were Easter eggs that showed up. One of them was this one. The name of the star system where the Jaggies come from, named Teptivad Marilla Rockray. And if you reverse the orders of the letters, shift the letters, two letters to the right or the left, and then rearrange them a little bit, regroup them. There we get Charlie, Lauren, David, and Peter. Another one we did was getting our initials on the, well, I'll show you this. Here's the Jaggy. Let's raise them up a bit, and zoom in, rotate them. There we go. You don't always see that because he doesn't always come up all the way. And if you type author on the keyboard in the start screen, you get to see it too. We got to appear on the box in the manual. That's me. Notice the helmet there. It's actually a motorcycle helmet, but they stuck turrets from tank kits, model kits on the sides, and so the thing's sticking out like the guns were like antennas. There I am again. So I actually was the rescuer and the rescuee. That's me, supposedly unconscious, with a week's growth of beard. And we made sure my wedding ring was showing so we could add some, people could be compassionate, really want to save me. My wife appreciated that since I was gone all the time, so she really wanted me back. Again, here's the manual. That's me in the front again. And this is a composite, so you can see there's several things that, everything was composited in. And inside the manual, the rest of the team, there's Peter, Lauren, and there's Charlie. By now we had, Faustine, he's the second from the far right, he's the guy who did Sinstar, and he was at Wings, and he had joined us by then.